Hello everyone and welcome to a very special hardware review. This time I'm not reviewing gaming hardware at all or computer hardware like in any way, shape or form. Instead I'm reviewing a camera. The camera that I'm actually filming this review with, so I'm not gonna hold it in my hand. Instead I'm gonna hold the box of it. This is the Panasonic Lumix DMC-FZ2000. It is an improved version of the FZ2000, which was quite a popular camera a few years ago. This was made in 2016, so there may be a chance we'll get a new version in like a year or two, I think. I was hoping they would announce it like before we bought this one, but we bought this one instead. So this is not a review sample. This is something that a company sent to us. It's something that we bought at GaminGHD thanks to all the people that sponsored us throughout the years, especially those on Steam. It is not a cheap device. This is a camera that will cost you around new, like without any sale, around 1,200 euros. It is cheaper in the USA because, you know, Europe has a tax on, well, everything, and especially one on cameras that record continuously. There is such a thing in Europe as a camcorder tax. If any device, a recording device, does not cut off like I think at 15 or 30 minutes of video recording, it gets an extra tax. The previous model, the FZ1000, I believe, did not have continuous shooting. That's why it's a lot cheaper than this one, like by about, I think, 200 to 400 euros or something. It's a lot cheaper. Also, it's an older model. But because of that tax, this thing is actually kind of expensive. Thankfully, we did manage to get it on sale. It was available for around 870 euros, which is still an insane price. But again, thanks to you, thanks to people that have watched our videos, upvoted, liked, sponsored us on Patreon, and on, oh, sorry, hit the microphone, and especially on Steam, we managed to get this nifty camera, which we will now need, well, we have been using for the last couple of weeks, months, to record all videos that require me being on camera or unboxing or other things. So, is it something that you should consider getting? Is it a good camera? Well, let's check in on the full review, which is coming up in a couple of seconds after I fade the black and cut here because I don't want to babble for too long. Before I get to the camera itself, let's begin with something very important about the FZ2000, namely what it comes in the box. It comes in the box with this. This is about 5 or 6 manuals, well actually there's 8 of them here, and for some reason none of them are in the language I can understand. This was bought in Romania. I speak Romanian, I speak English, I speak French, I understand a bit of Italian, I can pretend to understand Spanish, and if push comes to shove, I will lie to you about understanding Portuguese. None of these are in any language I understand, so I spent the last couple of weeks just browsing the English version of the manual on the desktop instead of having, you know, a book in my hand so I can take it with me when I go with the camera to some place, you know, to test it, to do stuff with it. So that was a tiny bit annoying, but yeah, you get used to it after much use. If you're wanting a professional style review of the camera with in-depth details about exactly how it works from the perspective of someone that's handled photography all his life, this isn't what it is. I'm not that kind of person. The previous cameras I've had were Raul's camera, which was a Samsung horrible handycam, and before that I had the little like horrible little small cameras, like photos cameras, which were horrible, completely outdated, made about 15 years ago I guess, and yeah, there was one previously which was a film camera, which really wasn't that much to it. So that being said, I'm not exceedingly qualified to review something this sophisticated. I come from the perspective of, oh my god, I got a lot of money, I'm gonna buy a camera, and we did. So now we have the camera. This is a professional camera. This is a really sophisticated, professional, high-end camera. No, that's a lie. This is at the beginning of the high-end, if you will, because there are cameras that cost so much and have features beyond this that'll just make the FZ2000 seem like nothing by comparison. It'll make it look like my phone camera, which I'm now using to... Wait a minute, did the peaking go out? Oh. It's just to monitor the focus, but I think it... well, I hope it's in focus. It looks like it's in focus. I hope it's in focus. The camera, by the way, is remote controllable with the app that Panasonic made. I think I showed it to you in a different review, but hey, you're seeing it again. See, you can control the camera, like zoom in, zoom out, everything you want through this app. It's actually quite nice. It's a very good feature, and I'm enjoying it very, very much, because without it, I would, well, it does have a flippy screen, I'll get that soon, but with this, it makes things a whole lot easier. So what exactly is this camera? Well, it is a camera equipped with a 20 megapixel sensor. It's a 1-inch sensor, meaning it is not a full frame sensor, so it's not superb in terms of quality or in terms of low light visibility, because there's a certain limit to the number of dots, number of, actual photosensitive areas on the sensor that you can fit into an inch. Like with that 1-inch diagonal. Full frame sensors are bigger. They're the ones that are usually used for film cameras. I mean, they imitate film, and they're used for motion pictures and stuff like that. And this one isn't that high end. Those things cost a hell of a lot more than what this does. It's completely out of our budget. Actually, initially Raul wanted to get the video camera, also a Samsung one, but it was the bulky kind with XLR inputs, and that only had a 3/4 inch sensor, so it would have been even worse in terms of video quality, especially no light, like crappy light the kind we have here. And well, that one was actually more expensive, though it did have a bunch of other features, like a control pad for audio inputs that was really complicated. But we don't actually need that, because we're recording audio separately with this, and also the microphones on board the camera aren't all that bad. You're gonna see them in action quite a bit. Actually, I may just cut off my audio here from the microphone, just put the audio from the camera, which is it's actually about. I'd say 1.5 meters away right now. You're gonna hear echoes because it's that far away. This room is not soundproof. It's not made for recording. It's just my living room. I could turn the camera and you'd see, well, the fact that I have some cookies on the table, which I'm gonna eat later. This is a test of the Panasonic FZ2000 shooting in 4K 30 FPS mode. MOV format. It's daylight and a bit cloudy outside currently. This camera is very heavy, and all the audio now that you're hearing is made using the microphones incorporated right on top of the camera. Again, this is in 4K, and it looks kind of nice, I think, judging from the thing. Oh, looks a bit, yeah, looks okay. Maybe a bit overexposed. It's on full auto right now, recording in the cinematic mode. Well, not a cinematic, but it's in the picture mode. This is standard format 4K. It's not the cinematic one because I have to restart the camera for that one. Now, that being said, even though it's not the highest of the high end, it is a really well built camera. It's made out of metal with a rubber, well, not rubber, it's a plastic finish on it, but has the texture of rubber, and it is really grippy, which is good because this is a heavy camera. It weighs almost 1 kilogram. You're gonna have to lift, bro, if you actually want to use this for extended periods of time without, having problems with stability. My hands are not what they used to be. As you may know, I was paralyzed, I had some nerve damage, so I'm not the most stable person when using a camera, which is why I'm thankful that the camera does come with a built-in stabilization for the image. However, that stabilization is mostly available in photo mode or in the video mode if you're running up to, exactly at 1080p or actually even 720p. I think you can record in 720p, but I don't care. In 4K, it doesn't actually have the ability to use the full stabilization because it is not using the full sensor when it's doing 4K. It's just using a part of it, and it uses more processing power and it can't do the stabilization. But that's actually okay. I mean, I'm using a tripod now. In most situations, I will use a tripod for filming 4K because, again, I don't trust my hands. They're not what they used to be. The camera, as you may notice, is not one of those things that has a detachable, lens. It comes built in. It cannot be changed. It's an all-in-one camera. It's an all-rounder. This is why I wanted this camera, because There's not really a lot I can do to it to upgrade it, and also that means it'll be ready for pretty much anything you throw at it. It is a jack of all trades, if you will, and contrary to popular belief, just because it's a jack of all trades doesn't mean that it's not actually good for pretty much all it does. Yeah, again, there are cameras that will blow it out of the water in terms of video quality, in terms of picture quality. The Sony stuff, I forget their names. I think they're on the 4th or 5th iteration of the camera. That's that similar price range with this one, but not similar. It's about $300 more expensive than this one, and it doesn't have a flippy screen, so it's kind of pointless what we do. But that one has a better level of detail and has a bigger zoom range. This has a zoom range of about it goes from 24 to 480 millimeters. That's the equivalency of a sort of a normal lens, if you will. It's got a built-in lens, like I said. You cannot change it, you cannot modify it, but you can attach stuff to it. For example, we were going to get a macro lens, but then the crypto market exploded, so we are penniless right now. But I can still sell the camera if push comes to shove, so that's not that much of a big of an issue. Now, as an amateur, I was a bit overwhelmed by the camera. It is insanely complicated. I'm not kidding. It's stupidly complicated. It has so many features, so many options, and it is so badly designed in terms of interface that you cannot understand it without these manuals. So you better make sure that you have manuals in languages you can understand, otherwise you will not understand how to use it. And the main problem is because it has two dials on it. Like, one of them lets you shoot standard photos, one of them lets you shoot bursts, like keep the button pressed and you'll shoot burst the video. You have one for time lapses, you have one for delays, you have one for 4K burst, which is, it's basically shooting a video in 4K, but the images are really high quality and you can shoot it for long, and then you can just select the individual frames you would want from that video you shot, a short one. And that's just one dial. The second one is the really fiddly one. You have aperture priority mode, you have shutter priority mode, you have manual mode, you have one more, you have the automatic mode, which is the one I've been using mostly up until now because of all the fiddly settings. You have the scene mode, which lets you pick individual scenes and effects. For example, I want something that's in a nighttime shot with a lot of lights in the background. You have that. You have one for portrait. You have for food. You have two settings for food, because Instagram. You have panorama, you have a custom mode, which I'm using right now, that lets you change a couple of settings, and you also have motion picture mode. Now, most of the settings that this camera has, and it has a lot of things, a lot of features that you can use to film, they are not available in most of these modes. They are available bit by bit in either one or the other, or some of them or none of them. For example, I got this camera mostly because it can do good video, like it can do 4K 30 frames a second superbly, but that also comes with a few drawbacks. Like I said, you don't have image stabilization because it doesn't use the full sensor. Also, most of the effects that the camera can do are not available in 4K. And they're not available unless you are in video mode. And they're not available unless you're shooting at 30 frames a second in 1080p in a certain format. It's got two formats basically. It has the standard compression, which is the normal one. It goes all the way up to 100 megabytes a second. And it also has the all intra mode, which goes all the way up to 200, but it's only available in the 1080p mode. And what all intra means is that instead of trying to predict what happens between frames from one frame to another, which is what most cameras do when you compress, so it doesn't waste so much space, it'll actually record every individual frame, like properly record them. So at first I thought that 200 megabits meant a higher degree of quality. But actually no, the image quality itself will not be as good as it is in 4K, because even though 4K uses less bitrate, it is still a higher resolution of that bitrate. However, the all ultra mode allows for much better movement. Like, there is no guesswork involved with how a pixel moved between two frames. It knows where it moved. So that's the kind of video quality you would want if you're shooting something that requires a lot of fine motion, maybe, and not a lot of resolution. This is a test of the Panasonic FZ2000 using the 1080p 30 frames per second all ultra mode at 200 megabits per second. Video quality should be a bit better than the 4K. The 4K only goes up to 100, so this one should look actually a bit better in terms of quality. Pixel density will be lower, but the bitrate is higher, so I'm guessing it'll look a bit okay. 1080p also enables stabilization, which is not available in 4K because it doesn't use the full sensor in 4K, and it should look fine. And there's an airplane somewhere around there, but it's a bit too cloudy, and I hope it would be, so I can't actually see it. But I mostly go for resolution because it just looks better in terms of video, and well, we got this mostly for video, and it does really, really well on video. But if you're shooting in 1080p and 30 frames per second, you have access to all sorts of amazing features, like a dolly zoom that I still haven't properly worked it out exactly how it functions, but I'm getting there. There's also the variable frame rate mode, which you can actually shoot it either directly in slow motion, like at 120 frames a second, which isn't a lot. Like the Sony ones that are in this category can go all the way up to, I believe, 240. And the image is a bit not as high quality when you're running it at 120 frames a second. Also, you don't have audio because it's, you know, in slow motion. And you can also set it to the variable. I keep wanting to say refresh rate because I'm coming from monitors. The variable frame rate mode, which lets you dynamically adjust with the buttons on the camera exactly which frame rate you want. Do you want to go into slow motion, or do you want to go into quick motion or normal? So you can make a very, very interesting films. Forgot to mention the buttons. When I mentioned the construction, I should actually go back to that. A very important detail to note is that you do have rings on this camera to control both the focus and the zoom itself, in case you want to do things a bit more manually and not use the knob that's on the right side or the buttons, at least for the zoom. These are not physical, they're not direct controls. They do not allow you to actually control the mechanism for zooming and for focusing. These are digital controls. Yeah, they are dials, you can turn them, there are rings, you can turn them any way you want to, but they are not physically connected to the mechanism they control. They're connected to the software, and the software then decides to control things, and it may not be the best implementation. There's a bit of a lag there that may be not what you would call the most ideal ever. Some professionals will of course try and go for a more direct method with a lens that can actually allow manual control over the focusing and the zoom, but this is not the case here. You cannot change the lens it comes with. It's built in. If it breaks, that's it. So do try not to break it if you're gonna get this camera. It's got a lot of buttons, and the best part of it all is that a bunch of the buttons, the function buttons, which are strewn all the way across its surface, they are customizable. You can set them to be anything you would want them to be. So when you get to the point where you actually know what you want to do with the camera, when you actually get to the point where you understand how it is used, you can set those to have the features you want them to. Again, this is going to require you understanding that a lot of the features are not available in most of the modes you're going to be using. Like I said, none of the effects are available outside of motion picture mode, and if you're running something other than 1080p 30 frames a second, you're not going to have them available. There is also, however, an upside to all this fiddliness. You can make something that looks exactly like you want it to. And I mean it exactly. It's got so many features, so many settings. You can set white balance, you can set saturation. Well, yeah, you can set that. You can set color balance, you can set anything and everything you would ever want to. And that also means that you're probably going to be using the auto mode a lot at the beginning, because in auto mode it tries its best to understand what you want it to do, and it will take a picture or a movie in that mode that you want it to take. Otherwise, you will have a really hard time at the beginning getting adjusted to exactly how to best use this camera. You're going to be using, I don't know, wrong shutter speeds, wrong aperture sizes. You're going to have overexposed images. You're going to have all sorts of really, really horrible things. Apart from choosing exactly what kind of colors you want it to shoot in, you can also define your own custom ones, like your own settings, and it comes with something called V-Log as well, which is an advanced sort of mode of filming. V-Log essentially increases the dynamic range of the camera, allowing for brighter and darker elements to be present at the same time on the screen, but it also requires color grading after, because it will just not display the actual colors, but a very flat representation of them. Also, V-Log is not available by default on the camera. You have to pay $100 to unlock it, because it's a pro feature. It's DLC for the camera, and we really can't afford it right now. The camera was expensive enough, but it's a feature that will be very useful to those who want to use the camera for more professional work, more professional video work than we do on a day-to-day basis. So it is a nice thing to know that you have there to use later on. This camera can shoot in RAW. It can shoot pictures in RAW, not video. Video in RAW is beyond its capabilities, because it only has one SD card slot, and well, I only have the 64 gigabit SD card, not the 128, because that one was too expensive, also out of stock. Shooting RAW would take a lot more processing power, and a lot more processing power to actually edit it. So I'm okay with using MOV and MP4. The camera actually suggests you use MP4, use MOV, because MP4 in non-all-intra mode is not as friendly to edit as the MOV file, according to the camera. And I believe it. It would have been nice if the camera actually told you, things about which modes are available and which setting. But yeah, like I said, the interface for it is a complete disaster. But this comes from someone that's used to computer interfaces and, being able to use a software based entirely on its interface, not on reading the manual, which is, well, kind of the standard for software since software began, but not for cameras, because, cameras are for professionals. You should have a manual that's not in the language you understand. It's kind of annoying. But still, as you can see on the background, I took a bunch of pictures, like a bunch of pictures of all sorts of stuff, and the quality of what you get depends on two factors. One, on settings you've set, and two, on what exactly you're shooting in terms of pictures. You can shoot them as simple JPEGs, and you can set the quality for the JPEG you want to occupy a lot of space. I believe the highest setting of quality for the JPEG will occupy around 9 megabytes. So the lowest one will go like maybe 1. But regardless of what quality of JPEG you select, they all have extreme artifacting in some cases. Like I've taken pictures that just look horrible in JPEG mode. They just look atrocious. They're the jagged, not even jagged lines. There's artifacting. There's compression artifacting that looks like it's like it, I don't know, like something dripped slime all over the picture when you zoom in. But in RAW mode, you can shoot both JPEG and RAW at the same time, there's no problem. But the actual RAW file, which is about 15 megabytes on the highest photo setting, actually looks pristine. And if you do have the software, which is not all that hard to come by, to edit a RAW picture and export it as a PNG, as something with better compression, with higher quality settings, then you will get pictures that are superb. And you also have the benefit of being able to edit the RAW files to do with them pretty much whatever you would want them to do. For example, this is a picture of a sunset that I took, actually no, it's a sunrise that I took near where I live, and it looks amazing. It's heavily edited, but it looked amazing, and that picture just makes it look even more amazing. It's superb, it's excellent, it's astonishing. And I can pretty much say that for most of the video I've shot and most of the pictures I've done with this camera, when you actually get them and get it in the right setting mode, in the right place, in the right time, with the right settings, you will get pictures that are superb. You will get video that is shot just right, and you will have a really high quality device to do it with. For example, this green screen is shot using horrible lighting. Like, I'm using daylight now in one part, I'm using a LED light bulb on this side, and I'm using, well, now that's actually off center, and I just looked at the bulb and now I'm blind. But I'm also using a fluorescent light to light my face, and it's a horrible lighting scheme. With any previous camera I've had, this would have been impossible to green screen, but I'm sure that with this camera it's gonna be a cinch because it's in 4K for one, and it does have really nice video quality. Sure, when you zoom in like to the max, you're gonna see some artifacting, but honestly, you're not gonna be using video to zoom in that much. It even has its own zoom feature, like besides the lens zoom, which it can do automatically while this thing is extended. So the lens does not extend as you zoom like it did with the FZ1000. It will be the casing of it will be always zoomed out to the max, and will do zooming in on the internals, so you won't get any sort of balance problems if you have it on tripod or something. And you can go beyond the zoom feature of the lens itself. You can go into digital zoom and enhanced digital zoom, which will just zoom in on the picture itself, and that can look a bit janky, as you can see in some of the videos and pictures in the background. But still, it is good enough quality if you use it sparingly. The default, the way it looks, is fine enough. Like I've said, there are some issues with the fine details, mostly due to JPEG artifacting. It does look a lot better in the RAW format, and well, even in RAW format, the image quality may not be as good as like I've seen some of the Sony cameras do, but it is still a good enough camera. I even took a picture of the moon in January when it was a full moon. Like the moon was like right above me. I didn't even have the tripod on me. I managed to take pictures like this. This is not the best this camera can do. I've seen better pictures of the moon with this camera, but this is the best I could do while holding it in my hands without any sort of support, just eyeballing it basically. It came out amazingly, especially because, you know, when you press the shutter button, the camera does move a bit, so it's better if you have it on a tripod, or hey, it has a setting that lets you initiate the photographing at a half press. Usually half press is the autofocusing, which is a neat feature to have, but you can set it to, you know, take a picture at half press so you don't get any sort of tilting or movement of the camera. It is, like I said, it's a complicated camera, but once you get used to it, once you learn it, it will let you pretty much do whatever you want with it. It's extremely versatile, and the autofocus is good enough for the most part. It does its job. You can set it to track things, you can set it to follow certain objects in a scene, you can set it to track, well, a specific region. You even have a post-photo focus feature where you take multiple photos of one single target, and then you can. I think the screen just went a bit dark. Okay, that's actually kind of odd. I think it's trying to save power. You have a post-focus that lets you take multiple pictures of the same object, and then you can select in post-production exactly where you want the focus point to be. It's an awesome camera, like I said. It's got tons and tons of features. Because of the 1-inch sensor, it may not be the best possible camera in low light, but it does well enough. I'd say it won't blow your socks off, but it's okay, it's fine compared to some other cameras I've had. Here's a video of me just walking outside in the snow with no light. Like there's on the other side of the street there is an LED light post, but it's aiming down at me, so still I'm quite visible in that video. It looks nice enough. You can't see the cat in the video because it was under the view angle, but there's a cat somewhere around there too. Autofocus, however, does have a bit of a problem, and this is actually something common to all the cameras in this range. I initially thought it was limited, maybe I wasn't using it properly, but there is a problem with the autofocus. It's not what you would call, it doesn't have what you would call an immensely powerful engine motor that keeps the lens stable. So if you're using autofocus and you throttle down to like, I think it's something more than 30 degrees, it cannot keep focus. This is a video I shot as the intro for the year.game series that I started making in January. I initially wanted it to be like actually visible, where you see me throwing the dice and playing with the cards, but the camera could not just hold focus. It's an autofocus, by the way. It could not hold autofocus. The lens would just keep dropping and resetting, dropping, resetting, dropping. The motor could not keep it in place. So that whole thing got eventually used with a blur filter over it, so you wouldn't see the constant flickering of the focus. However, if you set it to manual focus, there's no problem. It will stay there. It will not move. Manual focus works well. We even have a lot of settings to show you exactly when you're in focus. For example, up until I was recording, it doesn't seem to be available when recording, because you probably would have recorded over it. You can see like peaking, the little dots on places that are in focus. You can set that to have you can set all sorts of tools like having zebra stripes to places that are a bit overexposed and all sorts of things. I'm gonna say it again, it's an extremely complicated camera. I'm gonna say that constantly because as a beginner, I was blown away by the amount of features this thing has. It's astonishing. It even has ND filters, neutral density filters, that will let you pretty much set it to auto or to whatever you want it, so that you will not overexpose a scene when you're in bright light. You can set it to have like just the right amount of light, or you can set it to have auto as an automatic, so it'll do the thing itself. It's a really useful feature to have if you're shooting in a lot of bright light. I was hoping to shoot more in bright light to give you some videos of bees. Unfortunately, when time came that I would actually go to the bees and introduce them to the new camera, snow came in, so there is no bees for you this time. I may insert some bee footage. Well, I actually don't think I have time to actually go back to the bees and do some footage before this review airs. So all you get is some birds I found by the Danube when the only day in March when it was actually sunny and I was out, and some boats probably. Now, in terms of battery life, I was a bit disappointed at first, because while just fiddling with it when I first got it and loaded the recharged battery, it sort of ran out like quickly enough, but it ran out because I kept turning it on and off and fiddling with the zoom. When you actually use it, when you're recording with it, it won't really run out that fast. It can do, I think, over an hour of video in 4K, which is pretty much exactly what will fit on the SD card, so I'm completely fine with that. One thing I wish it would have had is an option to charge the camera while it's in use via USB, but you cannot. It does have a USB cable, but it's only for file transfer, which, well, yeah, I really don't use that. I just plump out the SD card and place it into the computer. Oh, and I think the battery is actually going down, so half an hour of video, and yeah, it's probably going to go down soon. I'm going to try and finish this review soon, as soon as possible. I also have a lot of other options like inputs for microphone, for headphones, for a lot of other things. You even have an HDMI output that you can output to something to an HDMI recorder. I think you can output to a PC as well, but I don't have a micro HDMI recorder for the connector for the camera to actually test it with. But you can output 10-bit video that way with surprisingly great detail. So it is a great camera to have. And I think the video is gonna die soon because it's sort of blanking out. Like 30 minutes of recording plus what I did while I was out shooting. What do you call it? No, it's actually 40 minutes. Okay, 40 minutes video plus what I did while I was out. That's enough battery life, I would say. So let's stop the recording on the camera and just continue recording just the audio. And I'm gonna show you on the background stuff from my outings and adventures. In terms of, going back to construction a bit, it is not waterproof, so do not take this out in the rain. Careful with it in snow. It will get dust on it because it constantly has to extend itself and go back and extend and go back, and a lot of gunk, a lot of dust, a lot of water can get into it, and it can completely be ruined if you're not careful. That's actually something that I'm really scared of, because the camera may just up and die on me if I'm not careful with it. So keep it clean. That's my recommendation. Keep it very, very clean. It does come with an extension to allow you to put a parasol on it, so the lens will be a bit protected. It's not much, but it's something. At least it's usable. It's useful up to a point. And something that I forgot to cover is I forgot to mention exactly what kind of camera this is. This is an it's a mirrorless camera. That means it doesn't have a mirror going to the lens that lets you see what you're seeing. No, instead it does have a viewfinder, but the viewfinder goes to an OLED display. It's got an OLED display with about 50% more resolution. It's actually twice the resolution of the flippy screen itself, the screen that you can flip side to side and do whatever you want with it. It's a beautiful display. It's a beautiful OLED display in the viewfinder that shows you exactly what the sensor is reading. So there's no ambiguity about, oh, what you're seeing may not be what you're actually getting. No, it is what you see is what you get. So there is really good quality in terms of options to actually allow you to know what you're shooting. The zoom feature on the camera also is quite good. Like, you can pretty much get pictures of things that are very, very, very far away. Like, you can get pictures of stuff that's almost a kilometer away, or yeah, maybe not a kilometer, but at least half a kilometer, that they'll look like they're like right near you, and that's with high quality video or high quality photo. You can get even more if you just punch it up and use the digital zoom, which does decrease detail a bit, like the resolution, because it just zooms in on the video itself, on the picture itself. But you can get up to, I think, 1 kilometer to actual zoom range, and it's super. Like, again, I took a picture of the moon and it looks like that. Like, how cool is that? It's amazing. Well, I guess this would be it for the review of the camera. Honestly, I don't know what else I can say about it. It's an incredible camera. It's highly customizable, to the point where you basically you will take better pictures with it over the course of time, simply to the fact that you will learn how to use it better. Again, it's not super high-end. It does have its limitations. It will not work superbly well in low light. It does have some limitations in terms of speed, because it does have to, extend and then choose the profile and then choose the setting and then choose the other thing and then snap a picture or then start a movie. It is fiddly as hell and kind of annoying. The interface being horrible and designed by people who truly, truly hate you. But other than that, it is a fine camera, and it's extremely expensive. I can't recommend it at full price. I'm glad we did not find it at full price, because at full price, this would have been absolutely horrendous. But for the price we found it on, it's honestly good enough camera. It works well. Right now I turned it back on just to see how long the battery will last, and I'm sort of fiddling with the settings, and you can see pretty much everything around me, the monitors, the microphone boom, and me looking down at the thing and checking the zoom range. It goes all the way up to pretty much anything I can. I can zoom in on my eyes, and because it's in manual focus, it'll probably not go insane. Yeah, I think that's the maximum range of the zoom. On the custom mode, I can also turn on the digital zoom, but I have to, I think, turn it off and on again. Oh, by the way, one thing I forgot to mention is that it can also shoot in the 4K cinematic mode, which is a bit wider than the standard 4K mode, because in the standard 4K mode it doesn't use the full sensor, so it's cropped, so it doesn't have the same the same view angle as 1080p. But because it is still a high quality camera, the view angle, even in the crop mode, is better than what the old camera had in the full mode. Like I said, however, in order to switch between the various modes, like 1080p and 4K cinematic and 50 frames, 50 hertz and 60 hertz, you actually have to turn off the camera and turn it on again, because, as I've said, it's fiddly as hell in terms of some features, but it is still quite powerful. So now it's out of batteries completely. It recorded about 45 minutes of video in this session, plus like the lot of photos I took a couple of days ago and video. So yeah, I still wish it could have been chargeable via USB. That's one of my main gripes with it. That and the autofocus being a bit fuddly if you keep it at an angle. Other than that, it's a great camera, expensive as hell, but I'm not complaining that we got it. It's an amazing camera. So I'm gonna see you again soon with more reviews, more stuff, shows every day. You can find us on DLive as well and check out everything we ever make. And hopefully vote us on Steam it, and maybe one day we'll be able to afford the macro lens to be able to shoot better videos of bees. So see you again soon. Take care. Goodbye.